I just wanted to make sure the recording was on. And then I've got a couple of thoughts I'd like to lay down, but go ahead, Emily.
Yeah, go ahead. I just started the recording yeah. Okay.
So the way I like baseline 11, support 17. I think in the next release of MicroProfile, we're going to target alignment. Well, we still have to decide, but target alignment maybe with Jakarta 10, right? Which has a minimum of 11, but support 17, if I recall.
Yes.
Yes.
So that alignment just seems to make sense.
So I think align with Jakarta EE10, yeah, makes sense. I think what Roberto put in is if we don't utilize any Java 17 features, there's no point to directly jump to 17 and then cut off our Java 11 support. So I think the source can stay with 11. And the implementation, maybe we should just say you need to certify with both 11 and 17 if we want.
Yeah, even if you look into records, right? So records make more sense to be used as a consumer, as an end user, right? Where you want to create pojos and things like that. Sure, we can do the same thing on our side, but I don't think we get too much value on our APIs if you use records. And especially some APIs are only interfaces anyway.
Yeah,
yes, exactly.
Yeah, I think
CDI no support. CDI doesn't support record anyway. So yeah, so that's pretty much. You can still use the record with Jakarta EE API and MicroProfile API.
yeah, in the case of records, if you have heavy I/O load, then it would be make sense to bring it to the API. In our case, most of the things regarding I/O are based on REST, for example, where the show has to end at the moment because Jakarta EE doesn't support that, giving a record to the REST API. But yeah, if we, like Roberto said, if we find something or the arguments that he wants to use some technology, gRPC, for example, would have been one if we would have done that. I think GraphQL could be another one. Then if there's a strong demand for that, we could decide to switch even the source level. But otherwise, we should not break things because we can. When we must, then we should break that. That's true.
Okay.
Now,
yeah, go for
one
it.
interesting thought. So it sounds like we're kind of agreeing on 11 with with support for 17, and we should send this out to the group as well, Google group,
Yeah.
to get additional feedback, kind of like we normally do before we finalize something. And an interesting question is, does anyone see, because we've got time before June, right, to maybe update specs, do we see adding any APIs that support language features for 11? And the reason what was that?
Flow.
The reason I ask is that it would I just want to make sure that if a spec decides to do that, then we just want to make sure we have consistency across multiple specs, right? If they're related in some way, right? So that was the only reason I brought that up. But Flow is interesting, yeah.
For reactive messaging.
Yeah.
Yeah, Flow, is a kind of have to update reactive messaging to use. That's from JDK 9, but it's okay. So if we move to Java 11, at least it gives them more option to use the Flow. rather than depend on ordered or reactive streams. I think also JAX-RS, also the REST client, because now they support SSE, and also there's a kind of rely on the ordered or reactive messaging. And maybe that spec can be updated, also uses flow as well.
I found something interesting on the survey link was posted in the chat. When you scroll down to the statements of Evans, which is Ben Evans, I think.
Yes.
The path towards standardization in the observability space, especially open telemetry. For example, if open telemetry would decide to switch towards 17, that might be a good reason when we want to support the newest version.
So actually they don't. They want to support the lowest level possible.
Okay.
Right? And the reason for that is because they want to of course cover all the most application as possible. And as we discussed multiple times, one of their main use cases is with agent instrumentation, right? So they want to be able to plug their Java agent to whatever JDK version you're running, right? So if they go to 17, then it's going to invalidate that use case by a lot, right? And another interesting use case that they have, they also support Android applications, right? And so they also tied with the Android version.
So
Yeah.
when you say support the lowest level, what are they aiming for with 8?
Yeah.
Okay, so if we say our minimum is 11, we should still have backwards compatibility with 8.
Yeah, I mean, it is fine, right? So the issue is not moving forward and using things from the past, right? The issue is
Right.
moving forward and trying to use things from forward in the past, right?
Yeah.
I'm still able to run my Java applications that run on 1, that were written on 1 in today's JDKs, right? So I'm not concerned on the OpenTelemetry side. So right now they're doing it at 8. They don't have any conversations to move it to 11, but I mean, that's just their API. So it will run on any JDK higher than that. And they have tests for higher JDK versions. It's just part of their strategy to be able to support things like Android and cover a much wider range of JDKs to be on a lower version.
Yeah, okay. I think that's good. I think kind of the majority agreed to move to 11, and then implementation can run support. We should maybe even force them support 17 and 11. So that's the kind of the user experience. So the other bit is the container orchestrator and cloud aspect. So this, I have been thinking about this area. Maybe this is a kind of the space for us to innovate. So we can think about like the new content, like an orchestrator and a cloud, and then come up with some other ideas, and maybe we can collaborate more. So anyway, so for us to collaborate more on this aspect. So with consideration of the time, so let's move on to the next one. Adopting of existing Jakarta E spec. So we discussed, so this is the kind of the annotations is done. So the beam validations, so it's the kind of consider in the Open API, also in the JWT. So maybe we could discuss that in the kind of Open API spec and JWT. Hopefully, if we could get that integration, maybe is we should get it included in the June release if possible. So Roberto, you in the GWT spec, did you discuss this? Did you guys discuss this at all in the past?
No, I know some implementation have some limited support on that. I know Tommy has something that is being Bival on small white jot. We don't support it officially. We do have a few pull requests to have some prototype supports, but I think there is some prototype or working implementations that do it, but there is no agreed solution, or there is no agreed path to move it to the specification just yet. I mean, there was just not conversations on that. And as far as I know, the MicroProfile jot meetings, they're not occurring at this time. So maybe that's something that needs to restart again if we want to bring that up to jot.
Yeah, okay, I'll mention on the each channel. Then I will see and get OpenAPI folks to consider the beam validation. I think at least the OpenAPI and beam validation naturally fit together, so they should collaborate a bit more. Okay, so okay, I raised the two issues on both. I will just follow up with this. Okay. I think we mentioned that we have discussed all this, right? So this is the converter. So Roberto, you mentioned about the namespace. So that would be discussed in a different call for the converter namespace.
Well, I mean, my idea was to put some stuff into the sandbox, but this is part of the wider conversation about how to decide which platform takes a specification, right? And right now it seems that there is no process for that, and that's something that I believe John was going to look for to probably revive the CN4J to restart those conversations if they make some sense. If not, then I'll just try to start some work on the sandbox, and then we'll see what happens.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, so I think that's pretty much about the kind of all the technical goal last year. So it's kind of we are still making progress with these two. I think for this year's technical goal, and I will create some new issues and track them all. I think it's good to like have a retrospective and review them and track them and update them. I think maybe John will need to discuss this in the next live hangout. I think all the area need to populate their goals on this GitHub repo. Okay, the next thing. So the next thing about the TCK certification process. So at the moment, certifying the MicroProfile 5, also there's a kind of MicroProfile 4.1 certification. And then basically the process is not kind of the approved. And also because we're moving a different, we changed the branding program as well. So some of the process need to be updated. So shall we, I think this is a major immediate thing we should get it sorted. So is David on the call? Can't see him. Okay, so this is PR, I mean, originally created by David, and I think he took the Jakarta TTK process. So there's one major difference is kind of the branding is the process is not adopted by MicroProfile. So there's a kind of we can go through this process and then we can agree on the things. And I would like to take over here and get his kind of agreed upon, and then maybe we go through the ballot and get it approved. So this is kind of define the TTK must be processed to be considered suitable for delivery portability. So this is all fine for self certification. So these artifacts are still okay. So it's the contributor. So this is all still okay. So the one thing is where to file a challenge. So it's so in MicroProfile, where should we file the challenge? Do we file the challenge on the basically it's on the corresponding spec? We just raise the issue and file a challenge there.
In Jakarta, it's with the spec team, but since MP, since we only have a single sort of list, it's it all goes to the same place.
So Ed, you suggesting all the challenge filed against MicroProfile dash working group, or if it's a config challenge,
Well, you
sense?
could file an issue. You should file an issue against the repository that holds the spec, right? But the discussion would be on the on one of the MP lists, right? Because I don't think each of the it's not the case that each spec has its own discussion list.
So file the issue on the file the issue on the corresponding repo, and then you say the discussion on this on the mailing list, or discussion on the repos on the kind of MicroProfile dash working group repository.
I think what generally ends up happening is the discussion happens against the issue, which is in the repo. So, one of the questions was, do you file it against the TCK repo or the spec repo? And where Jakarta ended up was to file it on the spec repo. But there's certainly been confusion over that.
The difference is in the MicroProfile spec and the TCK is under the same repo. So at least from that perspective, is okay.
Yeah, then that's not a problem here.
Yeah. So to summarize, like if someone has a config kind of challenge, and then they just file an issue on the MicroProfile dash config, as an issue, and have a discussion there. And then it's I mean, what kind of how can you say this challenge accepted? Is that with 2 thumbs up accepted, or how can we clarify is accepted?
So at least in Jakarta, two things come up, right? There's the timing question, right? Because often these are filed when a project is getting close to releasing, and so they want to finish quickly. They want to have a quick response. And then I think, didn't we adopt tags? So you just mark it accepted or rejected, and then close it when the discussion completes. If it's accepted, right, then presumably that test is disabled, and a errata, a bug fix release of the TCK is made.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Right. So who has the authority to add a label accepted? So any committer in that project?
I think that's the way it works. So are you? So I think the first thing you do is you mark it as a challenge. There's sort of a progression. So it gets marked as a challenge. I don't think we have a review state, and then it's either accepted or rejected.
Okay. And then any. So is there any minimum time duration? For example, someone file a challenge today and tomorrow some committer directly accepted. And maybe some other committer have a different thought. So it's kind of the, is there any kind of minimum time duration? It said waiting is like 3 days. Kind of this kind of still open conversation. And after 3 days, that's whatever the label is, that's the final say.
So in Jakarta, you just left to the committer team to decide. So that's us here. So, we can decide if we want to have a minimum or maximum duration. For certifications, right? The lazy acceptance is allowed. I don't know. I don't think we want lazy acceptance of challenges. My opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lazy acceptance is 14 days, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, you might add in there a label of rejected if it gets
okay.
turned down. So the end state will show that a challenge was made, and then it will either be challenge plus rejected or challenge plus accepted. So there's a record that has the conversation. So I don't know, that seems good. And then the question is on timeframes, and that's the community, right? If everybody's busy working on a release and a challenge comes in, it's going to be short timeframes or harder.
Yeah. So the only thing is that afterwards, after release, somebody challenge, and don't know whether whether we need to make sure actually these issues being triaged, and maybe we should have a kind of minimum time, minimum duration. So this that should be looked at within at least 7 days. Yeah, are there any thoughts, or we keep it kind of not that in that detail, and then we have wait and see, and then add more details as we go along? What do people think?
I think that's a good idea. Let's make it happen first and then see how we can clarify the details with these unhappy flows when a challenge is rejected or challenged again. I don't know. So see what happens.
Okay, let's do that.
So in Jakarta, right? So if the filer doesn't like the outcome, right, they can escalate it, and I think ultimately it ends up, I think it could go all the way up to the steering committee. But that's all written in the, there's a TCK process description that's in each of our TCK documents. Anyway, so that it could follow that, or you know, crib and modify from that, from Latin Jakarta.
Okay, okay, I will have a look at that and then copy. Yeah, copy that and then we'll see.
Don't copy the whole thing, just copy what you want.
Yeah, copy the thing makes more sense. Okay, instruction is all standard. Test
I will
record.
put a link to the minutes.
Sorry, put a which link? This
To
one?
the Jakarta TCK process.
Oh, you have.
I have, yes.
Oh, thank you.
At which
Okay, ratifying the final TCK. So this is that we have been following. So that's good. Here are the challenges. So who can file a challenge? So anybody on a valid challenge? This is all from the Jakarta invalid challenge. Filing a challenge and coordination challenge, exact TCK, challenge resolution. Challenge can be resolved after consensus specification contributor is reached. Attempt to gain consensus fails. Specification contributor may exercise lazy consensus voting or any practice. So basically, they can decide. Active resolution. Yeah, so this is all standard process. Accepted challenge. Okay, this is all good. This is what's the editor has said. And then reject a challenge. And then the challenge exclude or improvement, so they can discuss. Here, request to be acknowledged as a certified implementation must be filed via the specifications issue tracker user label certification. Include the following. So this we have been using that for the releases and all the certification. Public TCK result, so that's all standard. Certification requests do not themselves so certification requests do not themselves grant right to use the compatibility logo. So this one is we don't have a logo anymore. I don't know whether you have all read the conversation Roberto started, I joined in, and Paul commented, is since we are not doing all the branding program, and we are not allowed to have any compatibility logo. So I think so all this will be removed.
Yeah, the whole section can go, I guess.
Yeah. However, the logo bit can go, but a certification we still need to keep it. So we can still like say we can still certification resolution. Basically, we are not like just not grinding the logo. However, we can just say change a bit. After the certification, we can add that particular runtime to the web page we are going to create in the MicroProfile.io. So we can create a compatibility page, basically list which runtime path, which version of MicroProfile release. So we can do that. I can like modify this to like instead to use a logo, but to be listed on the web page. So
for MicroProfile, do we want to, in the case of some kind of a majority vote, right? It will be, I think for MicroProfile, it will be amongst all contributors or committers. Do we want to? That's probably okay. I'm just going to ask the question: do you want to try and limit it to people that have actually worked on that specification, or probably not?
I think, yeah, I think it's shouldn't limit to the people work on the spec. So it's kind of every committer have the right to vote, I think.
Okay, that's great.
Thanks. Okay, I will. Okay, so lazy consensus is 14 days. Yeah, for this approval. So basically, we put on the MicroProfile. I think also the for this, we spell it out. Basically, it's all the compatibility request is will happen on this GitHub repo. Is a request is to be made on the MicroProfile-WG. This is what we have been doing. Any objections? So have a central place to host.
If what we have been doing is okay, then I suggest that we keep it.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so all specs review the data complete TCK version accepted the certification request. So again, this section. So anywhere is mentioned logo need to be deleted. So rejected request, so that's fine. Escalate appeal. If there's a concern, resolved. Handle implementation, yeah. How test must be, yeah. So this is fine. And for the, so this diagram is fine as well, right? Yes. Yeah, I think it's fine as well. So in summary, so basically it's, this PR is pretty much we just remove the compatibility logo bit and also clarify a few small things. And then, yeah, we can use this TCK process So after I have done the update this PR, and we can like update this PR. Do we want? I think is to follow the process. I think the next step is go through ballot. What people think?
That makes sense.
Okay, thanks, Edwin. So we can vote for the TCK process.
So did you put it up for review for a little bit, just to see if there are comments, and then, you know, once those comments are, if there are none, then go to directly to ballot.
Yes. So it's update this one. So it will be obviously will be go through the let people review and then merge in.
Yep.
Yeah. Merge the PR and then go through the ballot. Is this what you are same as what you are saying, or
Yeah, just in case there's
Yeah.
comments from people who.
Yeah, and then maybe it's also is after I done the PR, I will send the email to the working group as well, so people can all review it. Otherwise, probably it's, people don't notice is kind of the change and etc. Ignore it. Okay, that's a good thought. I think is just increase the review years. Have more chance to add any good ideas. Okay, so oh gosh, we have just a few minutes left. So it's like I'll quickly use the last few minutes about July release. I think it's we are roughly on the like same line. If we will just continue the discussion about Java 11. I will bring up on the mailing list as the compile level. Also, I think is Ed, you mentioned actually in the past, we haven't followed the right, we jumped the process because we haven't done much like any functional change, much functional change last year with 5. But for this July release, we should follow the process, basically create a plan review and followed by the release review. And for the kind of the MicroProfile open telemetry, we will do a creation review and then a plan review and a release review. So basically all this will just follow the process. So what people think about this?
That's a good approach, I think.
Yeah, thanks.
Agree.
Yeah, thanks. For the content, for the scope, and hopefully we can release the MicroProfile open telemetry like before June or maybe so ideally that would be good to have a MicroProfile open telemetry in. If we have a MicroProfile open telemetry in, maybe we should remove MicroProfile open tracing.
So have we concluded that we're going down this road?
So it's because open tracing is kind of dead end. So the new feature is open telemetry. So previously we didn't do the open tracing, didn't touch open tracing because we don't have a alternative. Now, if we can release open telemetry and get all the integration point done, and I think that's July will be a good release to like remove open telemetry and put in, remove open tracing and put in open telemetry.
But
Yeah,
there
we
were,
have been.
yeah, sorry.
Yes, a quick. We have been talking about that, like a deprecation strategy.
Yes.
I think we should make it clear how we are switching to open telemetry if we are going to do that with a nice, whatever documentation or process, whatever that does not rip it out for end users.
Yeah, there were voices to keep the API living outside the platform, maybe as an optional microprofile specs with using the shim layer. So it could be used in parallel if necessary by somebody, and then drop it maybe.
So you are saying yes is not remove this one. So we add MicroProfile open telemetry, and also we keep open tracing.
Remove it from the
Platform.
umbrella specification, but we may keep it as a separate specification with reduced functionality, maybe, so it stays compatible with open telemetry.
Yeah,
but that is, of course, extra work we have to done and do some experiments, I think. Yeah. But
So
that
I
would
think
be an
we
option.
need to make a statement about open tracing, right? So the one of the things that I've seen is and because of all the open tracing, open census move to open telemetry, nobody is maintaining the open tracing repos anymore, right? So even on Quarkus, we have our own implementation, right? Which we depend on some open tracing APIs and implementations. And we're not able to fix the bugs because we don't have any responses from the upstream repos. So we're gonna have to redistribute the code to be able to fix those issues, right? So open tracing is a dead thing right now. Nobody is looking into that unless, of course, you're already using it and you want to maintain it, but as a consumer. But the projects themselves, they don't have anyone looking into them. So I think we need to make a statement in the sense that we want to push users to move outside open tracing. And yes, I mean, I'm happy or I'm fine if open tracing moves outside of the platform and stays as a standalone spec if some vendor wants to keep supporting it. But I think we should not work on that anymore.
Yeah, so I think it's if we have open telemetry released, I think that's the ideal replacement. It's the top of the hour, 3 minutes over, so that's a great conversation. I think also as a to-do and also publish the July release, the kind of things on the candidate or potential content and etc. on the mailing list as well, so people can comment. The other thing we haven't discussed about whether to add GraphQL to the platform release in July. Again, we can discuss on the mailing list. With that, thank you so much for joining.
Can you just mark that? I don't think we were really finished with this discussion.
We will continue.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so basically what I'm saying is I will continue the conversation on the mailing list, and then in the next call we can just follow.
Right, but if you leave it documented like this, it looks like it's.
Oh, okay. So if I say question mark, yeah.
All right.
Continue.
Yeah.
Discussion on mailing list, and here on the next call. Okay then. Thank you, and talk to you next week. Bye everybody.
Thanks, Emily.
Bye,
Bye.
thanks.
Yes, bye.